Good morning, everyone, and welcome. So first of all, thank you to everyone for being here early-ish in the morning on a Friday to celebrate our PALI Awards. So thank you for joining us this morning to celebrate the 2025 Presidential Awards for Leadership in International Education. My name is Valeria Bertacco. I'm here every year, and I serve as a Vice Provost for Engaged Learning. The PALI Award for Leadership in International Education was established in 2017, so we are on the 8th year, to celebrate and recognize the extraordinary effort of our faculty and staff in advancing international education for our Michigan students. This year, as part of the Year of Global Engagement, you may remember it was launched in January of 2025, we are delighted to add a new award for rising professionals in international education. You all are well aware of how central international education is in delivering a well-rounded college experience to our students, and you're a key contributors to that. Each year, our institution offers more than 300 unique opportunities thanks to the work of our passionate faculty and staff dedicated to organizing such rich programs. The PALI Award recognizes 3 individuals, faculty and staff members, whose vision and commitment to international education contributed to our institution's national leadership in this domain. Indeed, as you may recollect, last fall, the Open Doors report identified the University of Michigan as the #1 public institution in the country by number of domestic students completing an experience abroad. This is thank you to you, so a round of applause to you. Our selection committee for the PALI Award worked hard to identify today's award recipients among a pool of 31 spectacular nominations. Indeed, I wish to take this opportunity to extend a heartfelt thank you to the members of the selection committee for their work in discussing and evaluating each nomination. A year ago, we gathered here in this room to honor the 2024 awardees. We as a community had just completed the first year of our ambitious 5-year global engagement strategic plan, aimed at increasing participation in and access to international experiences for our students. We were also preparing to launch the institution Year of Global Engagement, fueled by a desire to build opportunities for listening and learning across differences. We also sought to create and disseminate knowledge on key issues related to global engagement, to showcase the breadth and depth of the university commitment to global education across all our free campuses, and to generate opportunities for students to build confidence as engaged global citizens. Through this initiative, we reduced barriers and provided critical support for students seeking international experiences. For example, we created several new activities. The Passport Day programs to support first-generation and Pell-eligible students in obtaining their first passport. We launched the first-gen Education Abroad Scholarship, made it financially possible for nearly 100 first-gen students to study abroad this past spring and summer. And then we launched the Go Blue, Go Abroad program to introduce and prepare first-year students to study abroad, providing workshop and education about the opportunities and a $1,000 scholarship to offset the cost of doing experience abroad. And then finally, we promoted and supported 16 new education abroad programs for our faculty to lead. These are just a few examples of a whole portfolio of initiatives which we are being able to launch thanks to the institution's support. And your time, dedication, and commitment to provide a rich pool of international education opportunities for our students. So I would like to personally thank and take the opportunity this morning to thank each one of you who has served on a selection committee, who spoke at our workshop for the students, who volunteered at the event and the Passport Day activities. By offering this wide range of portfolio activities, we'll build excitement around global engagement, and we hope it will reverberate for years to come. And we hope to continue several of those activities in future years, continuing the global education, the strategic plan of global education. Now, let me tell you an activity that is upcoming. As part of the Year of Global Engagement, sometimes we call it yogi, but we're very careful with that term. We will be hosting a fireside chat with Pratik Awa, president of Association University. The event is in Raqqa on September 22nd in the afternoon. Patrick is a Ghanaian engineer who came to the United States to pursue his bachelor degree in engineering, so he's also from the engineering community. And then when he pursued a career at Microsoft, and then he went back to Ghana and founded this new university called Ashesi University, who established new goals and mission to form leaders that are both dedicated to their country and they lead with ethics. Patrick is a MacArthur Award winner, along many other awards, an amazing visionary individual. And I know him personally, he's a fantastic person to discuss with. So please register for the event. There is a QR code there. I hope to see you all in Raqqa on September 22nd, 3 p.m. Food before the event, just in case. Okay, so the University of Michigan Global Engagement is multifaceted. We send students around the world to experience international education. Last year, we sent more than 5,000 students in different countries to participate in global engagements. And as I said, we were named the #1 public university by study abroad participation, #2 in the nation overall, but #1 was a private university, so that doesn't really count as much. We bring students and scholars from around the world to our campus. Last year, we had 8,800 international students who comprise 16% of our overall student body. We work side by side with partners around the world. We renewed just this past year 80 international agreements to facilitate scientific cooperation and academic exchange. We have currently 269 active international agreements. And last year, in 2024, our faculty participated in 1,100 research projects with at least one collaborator affiliated with an international institution. 37% of our publication last year by U of M researcher had at least one co-author from an international institution. So later in today's program, we are going to discuss how we can protect this big, powerful international engagement our institution has, and how can we maybe even deepen and increase such level of engagement in light of turbulent times in the United States. Turbulent is a nice word. When international education and higher education more generally may feel under attack. Over the past several months, many people, alumni, faculty, administrators from U of M and beyond have remarked to me how this is the time to hold the line. This is a time where we don't retreat, but we do whatever we can to keep all the engagement we have, hoping for a next administration who would actually re-emphasize and put more focus on international engagement. So this is a specifically important time not to close partnership, not to stop engagement, not to slow down. For now, I want to recognize the extraordinary effort for our awardees and our entire international education community, and many of you are here. Thank you again so much for coming. Without further ado, let me welcome President Domenico Grasso, a great supporter of international education. Give me a second, I have to. Who himself was a member of a World Bank-funded international team of scholars that established the first environmental engineering program in Argentina. We're delighted to welcome him for his first PALI event, I hope one of many, to recognize our awardees and celebrate with us in this amazing event. Thank you so much. Welcome, Domenico.
Good morning, and thank you, Larry. You make international education at the University of Michigan an integral part of our experience for students and faculty. Engaging at the global level is a cornerstone of the Michigan experience. Interacting with other cultures and nations builds intellectual capacity and empathy. I know this from firsthand experience. As both a faculty member and as an Army officer, I traveled across the world. That included visiting places like Peru, Argentina, Panama, China, South Korea, Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, and many, many more. I was always surprised and enriched by the cultures. There is no better way to learn about the world and learn about oneself. I'm certain many of you have had similar enlightening experiences. I want the world to look to Michigan for diverse ways to build meaningful partnerships and relationships that better connect our communities. We are devoting this academic year to a celebration and examination of life-changing education. This includes learning about different cultures, speaking a new language, connecting with scholars on other continents, and developing an appreciation for our similarities and our differences. I applaud the work of this year's award-winning recipients and their exemplary representation of our commitment to international education. It is my honor to tell you a little about each of them. We will begin with Professor Cheryl Moyer, who we are recognizing with the Distinguished Service Award. Cheryl has been with the university for nearly 3 decades. In the medical school, she is a professor of learning health sciences and of obstetrics and gynecology. In the School of Public Health, she is professor of health management and policy. In everything she does, she is a champion of mentoring Michigan students on international health projects. That includes deep involvement with the medical school's Global Reach program, which sees medical faculty and students in collaborations throughout the world. She wears many hats. She is a mentor, a principal investigator on numerous grants, and an inspiration to anyone who believes in the impact Michigan can make globally. Cheryl, would you please join me as we recognize your contributions?
What a tremendous honor it is to be standing here today. To President Grasso, to Vice Provost Bertacco, to all those of you on the selection committee, and to my wonderful nominators, thank you. You know, I've sat in the audience at ceremonies like this, and I've always looked up at the awardees and thought, wow, they really always have had it together. So I wanted to share a little bit of my journey in the name of keeping it real. So flashback a little while, and I was in my 30s. I had never been to Africa. I had 2 small children, a husband who worked all the time. I was working as managing director of Global Reach at the medical school, and oh yes, starting a PhD program at the School of Public Health. So suffice it to say, I was holding it together by a razor-thin thread. At the time, Tim Johnson, who many of you knew and loved and who we lost in May, who was sort of an icon in global health, was my boss. He was the interim director of Global Reach. And he was trying to put together this high-level meeting in Ghana that included chancellors and provosts and, oh yeah, the Minister of Health. And he couldn't go. He asked me to go. Have I mentioned I had never been to Africa? So as it got closer, I confess I got more and more anxious, I guess you'd say. And I started thinking, well, what if something really bad happens? I mean, I had all those stereotypes in my head about Africa, military coups and all kinds of badness. What if I got really sick? I had just been to the travel clinic, and you know, they can scare you half to death with all the things you're gonna die from, right? What if I did or said something really stupid and I ruined our chances because I didn't know the culture? But more importantly, what if I let Tim down after he had gone out on a limb for me? So for those of you who knew Tim, he had this way of making the impossible seem possible and the absolutely terrifying seem ordinary, like just another day. And a few days before we left for that trip, I remember him looking at me and he kind of cocked his head and he was like, don't worry, it'll be great. And you know what? It was. Like, that trip fundamentally changed who I am today. That trip exposed me to people who've become lifelong friends. It changed the course of my research. It changed the course of my dissertation. And the experience of going anyway and of being afraid and doing it, and knowing that Tim had my back is something I carry with me every day when I work with students. I was in my 30s and I was a little wigged, and we're working with students who are 18, 19, 20 years old. So that experience, I think, really shaped who I am and how I approach work with students. So I think of Tim often, as well as the many other amazing mentors I've had at the University of Michigan. Joe Kolars, who's here today, Jody Laurie in the School of Nursing, Paula Lance in the School of Public Policy, and so many others. And I try hard to live up to the bar that they set, as well as to pay it forward for those coming after us. I do feel like it is a privilege to be able to work with so many young people. They are going to be the ones who change the world for the better. They are going to be the ones who continue to champion for global engagement and for equitable partnerships long after we are gone. So let me just finish with a couple of specific thank yous to my husband and my family. This award is yours as well. I could not have done this without you. I also feel like I should thank all the babysitters at Sigma Kappa who helped me while we travel. Thank you. To the students I worked with, you inspire me. It has been a privilege to be part of your journey. And finally, to this great university, I am so grateful to be somewhere that truly values global engagement and global education. So with that, I will say thank you and go blue.
Our next Distinguished Service Award recipient is Scott Riggs, Director of Global Engagement at the University of Michigan, Dearborn, a place very near and dear to my heart. Scott has made global education a part of the U of M Dearborn experience. This can be a challenge when your students are commuters and often work in addition to pursuing a college degree. He has been instrumental in establishing engaging study abroad programs in Spain, Iceland, Costa Rica, Poland, Greece, and France. And by the way, those are all places I haven't been yet, and I would love to re-enroll. I'd like to quote Chancellor Gabriela Scarlata, who has worked closely with Scott throughout the years. She said, "Scott's passion and enthusiasm for innovation to enhance global education on our campus is unprecedented and unmatched." Scott, thank you so much for such dedicated service. Please join me on the stage.
Okay, thank you. I am very honored and humbled to have been nominated and selected for this award, so thank you to all involved, and thanks especially to my wife and kids for your love, patience, and support when I need it the most. Thank you. And I'll share a little bit about my journey that led to this point. I was provided access to international experiences from a very young age, and the accompanying gift of cultural dissonance and the resulting struggle that comes with attempting to understand otherness has been the greatest impetus for growth throughout my life. I know that many of us in this room have experienced that transformative power of wrestling with values and beliefs that conflict with what we previously embraced. And I hope we are all the better for it. As such, I decided to double down on learning about other cultures. I got a degree in applied linguistics and then went on to get a master's degree in teaching English to speakers of other languages, and I have never regretted a single moment of that trajectory. Presently, as Valeria noted, we are confronted with a world where the benefits of crossing cultural divides are questioned and attacked daily. We too often seemed destined for fear of what we don't know, what we don't understand, or have meaningful exposure to, other religions, other values, other cultures. For those of us doing the work of global engagement, we are uniquely positioned to face the fear of otherness head on. We have the tools and expertise to share other ways of living, being, and knowing, and we can do so with compassion and intellectual empathy. Sometimes I wonder if the fight is worth it and if there is any chance of making progress when facing entrenched beliefs. When I feel this way, I think back on my life and I think of who I was and who I am today. I think about the key role that global learning played in my development as a person. In closing, I want to acknowledge the many privileges I have had that unfortunately are not equally available to all due to persistent and systemic inequities. As the world finds itself in need of leaders and citizens who will challenge the present and enrich the future, the need grows daily to develop critical global citizens who can empathetically address complex issues. Critical global citizens are the ones who will collaboratively build communities where all can belong and all can flourish. This, to me, is the heart and soul of global learning and why I am so proud to be a part of this great group of global educators. So, thank you.
With this year's program, we are introducing a new Rising Professionals Award. Our inaugural recipient is Lorenzo Garcia Amaya, Associate Professor of Spanish and Linguistics and Associate Chair of the Department of Romance Languages and Literature in LS&A. Lorenzo is known among his colleagues and his students for his innovative research program, leadership, student mentorship, and dedication to service. He has served as the faculty lead on numerous University of Michigan study abroad trips to Spain. His students return from their experience with enhanced language proficiency and intercultural competence, which builds their global citizenship skills. Lorenzo, we know you connect well with your students because they have honored you with the Golden Apple Award. You have made a significant impact on their lives, and we look forward to your future contributions. Would you please join me on stage?
Start. Good morning, everyone, and thank you. Receiving the President's Award for Leadership in International Education is a profound honor. It is also very personal. Let me share why. I come from a humble community in southern Spain. My parents grew up in a country devastated by the Spanish Civil War, and that history shaped their education and their chances. My mother, coming from a family of 2 siblings, completed 2 years of high school and was trained as a seamstress. But in her world, women were expected to care for others, not to study. My father came from a family of 9 siblings. He attended school for only a few months. By age 6, he was herding goats and sheep with one of his brothers, moving the animals from town to town for a small stipend. One day, my father and his brother were returning home from working on a farm. Suddenly, a car pulled up, 3 men jumped out and tried to kidnap them. A group of officers on the scene came to rescue my father and his brother. They ordered the men to release the 2 brothers, and they were set free. Stories of missing children were not uncommon in the Spain of the 1950s, and certainly others weren't so fortunate. We now know that many families lost their children in a variety of circumstances and never saw them again. That memory stays with me. I have heard this story countless times since I was a little child, from both my dad and my uncle. It speaks to the trauma they carried, and perhaps while retelling the moment of release, help them find a measure of calm. I often think, if those officers had not decided to act, I might not be here today. Here's the lesson I draw from it. We have all heard that a lack of education breeds ignorance. More importantly, it breeds vulnerability. In a different reality, my father and his brother would have been in school and safely home by the end of the day. That is why this work matters to me, because I have seen up close what a lack of education can do to a life. For that reason, I've devoted my own life to educating myself and to educating others. And I use the stories to awaken my students' curiosity. Imagine now that you're a student in one of my classes abroad, and I tell you my father's story. Imagine your host parent is my parents' age, as is often the case in our programs. And as a curious student, wouldn't you want to know more? Who were those men? Why were children being kidnapped? Why did authorities allow it? What happened to other children? Now imagine asking those questions in Spanish, in Spain, of people who lived through that era. Language becomes personal. Listening becomes urgent. That is why I try to inspire when students go abroad to use their curiosity as a pathway to deeper fluency and understanding. That conviction also comes from my own path. Personally, as a first-generation college student, I have been fortunate to benefit from international education. As I worked on these remarks, after studying and working at 7 universities in 4 countries, I may actually have overdone it. But each place stretched me as a person, as a mentor, researcher, as an administrator. Across 15 programs I have taught and led, I have watched how place changes what students hear, what they say, and who they become. Place, in about itself, is a teacher. Professionally, that belief guides my research. I'm a linguist specializing in second language acquisition and bilingualism. My first research question was whether study abroad accelerates acquisition. In principle, it should, because there are endless opportunities to interact with speakers who have mastered the language over a lifetime. So what have we found? Yes, learners can become more fluent, but the size of the gains hinges on 2 key factors: how much language they actually use and their psychological preparedness for using a second language in an immersive context. This data represents both a result and an opportunity. How do we build supports that keep the second language alive earlier and longer? I believe the answer begins before departure. I am currently proposing a pre-departure class that stages the first week in virtual reality, so students practice it for real before they go abroad. Beginning with day 1 essentials, introductions and small talk, asking for directions or transit passes, and conducting daily purchases so that they land already warmed up, confident, and ready to go. The immediate payoff would happen abroad with a smoother and more confident start. And over time, those experiences will flow back into our classrooms. Recently, I crossed the border with my parents for the first time in their lives on a trip to Portugal. We took a family photo we never could have taken before. People of limited means from my parents' generation do not travel much abroad. Though I have invited them to visit the US many times before, they always hesitated. Possibly their limited schooling and their life experiences have made them apprehensive about leaving Spain. And when we think of it, travel asks us to tolerate uncertainty and a loss of control. Education and the ability to operate in more than one language restores agency. It gives us tools to navigate what we cannot predict, to deal with the unknown. That is the empowerment I want for our students. I love seeing students who get their first passport, go abroad, and then begin exploring not only their host city, but nearby towns, and soon enough, other countries. It's hard to think of many more empowering actions we can do for our students. Which brings me to my closing thought. That picture with my parents does not erase what came before, it reframes it. Education changed what could be in that frame. Who could stand there and how? International education does this every day. It widens the frame for our students and for the communities that welcome them. Let us commit to that work. Let us keep widening it by preparing well, opening doors, and choosing to listen. If one moment of courage once altered my family's future, imagine what thousands of acts of understanding can do for our students. This is why I teach, why I research, and why I am committed to international education. Because every time a student crosses a border on a map or in the mind, we advance Michigan's mission. Thank you to my family, to my colleagues and staff, to our partners abroad, and to our students who make this work matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorenzo, Scott, Cheryl, and President Grasso. I think we can all agree that the future of international education at our institution is bright, precisely because of your passion and your leadership. Thank you so much for this. So now we're going to transition to our panel. I would like to welcome you to the stage, and I will join you in a quick second. Feel free. So our panel today is titled From Barriers to Bridges, Advancing Global Engagement in Turbulent Times. I have to say, the first year I hosted this event, it was the first year after we came back from the pandemic, and we had a discussion about how beautiful it was to be back in person together and how we were ready to restart all the international engagements. And I remember the day after thinking, well, next year that's not going to be the case. What am I going to talk about? But this country had kept me on my tippy toes the entire time. Okay, so discussion for today. We will be discussing strategies for advancing global engagement in these turbulent times. The times are undoubtedly turbulent. We live in a complicated political climate where international engagement can be challenged by rising nationalism, visa suspensions, visa revocation, visa resumptions, I cannot keep up, recent funding cuts, and geopolitical tensions. It is more important than ever for universities to articulate their global commitment and find creative ways to continue to support faculty, staff, and students' engagement with partners around the world. We would like to discuss with our award winners how removing barriers to cross-cultural experiences, whether geographic, financial, linguistic, or beyond, promote access and opportunity. What strategies they have employed to open doors to global experiences in challenging times, and what innovative ideas they have developed for building more bridges across cultures in the future. I'll come there and join you and ask you a few questions. And, oh, I can speak and move. That's great. I will ask questions to each one of you, but then if the others have additional comments, please feel free to add. And for the public, I really would like to hear your questions as well. So let me get started to warm up the room, and then I'll pass the microphone to you all. Scott, my first question to you. A focus on affordability and accessibility of education abroad has been a hallmark of your work on the Dearborn campus. In your experience, what strategies have been successful, and what more can we do to ensure that all of University of Michigan students have access to affordable global experiences, besides putting a lot of money on the problem?
So, for me, what has proved most effective is listening to students, especially the student populations that are maybe underprivileged or lacking resources. So, and I have learned things that are obvious and things that aren't, right? So that's why I think it's so important. I think what's obvious is financial aid. That is always the number one that students say. But what was less obvious to me, what they, at least at Dearborn, what they bring up often is that the programs, they say, have to count for credit and have to count to their degree. And that was a bit of a surprise for me. But for them, they don't have time to put toward things that they view as superfluous, so they want to make sure that it counts. So we also had to make sure that we had shorter programming available, and we have a lot of students who have family responsibilities, and the financial impact of not just going but also leaving a job is really high. And so making shorter trips available was important. And finally, I think we often view global education as synonymous with international travel, and I don't think it has to be or should be. I think there's a lot that can be done locally and a lot that can be done virtually that are accessible and meaningful.
Thank you. I have a question for you, Lorenzo.
Sure.
So you talked a little bit about the focus on pre-departure preparation. And actually, I would like you to elaborate on the concept of virtual reality. I don't know if that's a Zoom environment
It's
or
Zoom on steroids.
Okay. So what type of preparation do you think is most effective, independent of the reason why people are going abroad? How do you teach them to navigate cultural differences, which is beyond being able to buy your bus ticket, right? It's understanding why people behave in certain ways when it's different from yours. And what specific outcomes do you prioritize when you prepare them before their departure?
So first of all, at the University of Michigan, we already do great work preparing students before they go abroad. We have all sorts of orientations. I'm looking at my CGS colleagues, and we even have orientations on Sundays. So we do a lot. But it is true that we could perhaps do more, right? A few thoughts is, for example, pre-departure virtual exchanges. When our students, outgoing students, have the opportunity to meet future host parents, also future professors, and even peers, members of the organizations that are already in the country where they're gonna visit. We could have also task-based cultural assignments. For example, we could give students concrete tasks so that they fulfill different experiences when they actually are abroad. I'm just gonna give you an example from my experience in Granada 2 years ago. I had students that, although I had told them many times about the Alhambra, one of my favorite buildings in the world, and it was like, they had like 2 weeks left of the program. This is a 4th-month program, it's pretty long, and they have not visited yet. There was a lot of variation. Some students were taking architecture courses, right, to learn more about the Alhambra. But at the same time, some students had not visited. So imagine that, for example, we have given the opportunity to those students to actually see more about the Alhambra before they went to Granada, right? Perhaps that would have spiked a little bit of interest on their behalf. We don't have to do augmented reality, but just a documentary or something.
Create the curiosity.
Yeah, and one thing that I like is pairing also outgoing students with returnees, people that have had the experience, so they have an opportunity to talk to students. And sometimes in our orientations, we have 1, 2, 3 students that tell us for 10 minutes what it was. But if we could pair them, right, maybe even pay them a little bit so that they could accompany the students for a few weeks before they go abroad, they could tell them a lot because every student has a different experience when they go abroad. And all of this could be perhaps encompassed in a 1-credit class, in a mini course, where perhaps we could incorporate short videos about different aspects related to this experience that they're gonna have, the international experience that they're gonna have, and then, give them the opportunity to either journal about it or also think about it in groups, right? And the students would get to know each other, and maybe even if they're not going to the same program, they get a chance to share the preparation experience. So those are some thoughts of things that we could do to help our students. You asked me about the virtual reality. That is more for programs that are designed to actually learn a second language. So I'm in beginning stages, but imagine, for example, that you have to do X number of tasks during the first week or 2 weeks abroad. If we give you the opportunity to feel like you're doing this, but actually you don't get to see yourself, you have an avatar. We know, it's reported in the literature, students feel more confident because they're not as exposed. So if you're a bit shy, you're in the metaverse, and it's just your voice, right? You can also mask. Perhaps we would give our students an opportunity to try different things and feel more comfortable once they are abroad using a second language. So some thoughts, but yeah, excited about the next chapter.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very interesting. Very good idea. I'm going to jot them down. Cheryl, we're going to talk about research funding for global health. So research funding for global health is driving innovation that can combat infectious diseases, improve maternal health and child health. and strengthen health systems worldwide. However, we're experiencing a lot of funding cuts in the recent month, I would say, that can stall progress, limit collaboration, and impact especially low and middle income countries. What can a university do to counter and continue the support with global partners and continue to support our students' international experience in the space of global health?
That is such a great question. One of the things I've always appreciated about the University of Michigan is the number of small seed grants that are available in every little corner. There's Earwig, there's the International Center, ASRI, the African Social Research Initiative, there's Global Reach at the medical school, the Global Public Health offers support for their students, the Center for Global Health Equity has seed grants for faculty and has opportunities for students of all levels. What that means is that we can get very creative about maintaining relationships even when larger grants get cut. I often talk about the role of students in many cases for me is to be my eyes and ears on the ground and to be that partner that I can't be there 24/7. But if I have students working with my partners daily for 3 months in the summer, it maintains that relationship even if we don't have a large grant. So I think universities and students can play a really important role in maintaining those relationships. I also think we're going to have to get more creative about philanthropy and earmarking philanthropy for global work, because as we know, the federal government has its vicissitudes, shall we say, and I think people who have experienced global health have a much deeper commitment to maintaining it and providing those opportunities for students. So I feel like that's another area where the university can leverage its influence in creating more opportunities for faculty and students and our global partners.
I really appreciate the two ideas, but also the positive attitude that you can maintain in these like daily updates of incidents and new problems. So thank you for that. Do we have questions from our public? I can ask one more question, but please be prepared. Okay, Scott. Oh, we have a question. Yes, go ahead. Patrick.
Thank you, panelists and awardees, for your knowledge and sharing with us. And each of you in your remarks kind of mentioned students needing some kind of psychological support, which Cheryl, you mentioned being 30 and having that fear of going to an unknown place. And Scott, you talked directly about the unknown. And of course, Lorenzo, thinking about the language, but also the psychological preparation. So I'm just wondering, where do you think needs to be done to really find out what students need to be properly prepared? And what are some practical tips that you really employ to ensure they have the support and courage to go abroad? And what can the university do better to support you in that effort?
Thank you. That's a great question. I'll start with a brief answer. I think for me, students are so different. There are some who are extraordinarily comfortable and are world-traveled and are really feeling fine. There are others who've never left the state of Michigan and need a lot more support. So when I think about mentorship, it's about finding out where students are and trying to meet them there, as opposed to just skipping right to the tasks and the project at hand. So for me, pretty much all of my meetings start with, how's your head? And then if they're in country, and how's your tummy? Because those two things are very important. Because truthfully, if we don't ask those questions, students don't always feel comfortable. And if their tummy's not well and their head's not well, they're not going to be able to do whatever research project it is that we're working on. So I feel like it's incumbent upon each of us as mentors to remember that these are all individuals. And while, yeah, it's nice to think that we could have some more global programming, I do feel like it kind of boils down to that one-on-one connection, because no one really knows what they're going to feel like in the moment, and that can change so much that it's incumbent upon me to always be asking that question. That isn't the first time in country question. That's an every week when we meet question, and on WhatsApps on the weekends in between. So that would be how I would respond.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think is really useful for us to do is to actually go and visit students in their classrooms and let them know that international education is actually a possibility. So this is something that I'm very proud of my department, something that we do, that we visit students. A lot of our students, because Spanish is still taught in Michigan, they don't need to complete the elementary language program, the language requirements. So they start in our bridge course, a bridge course that we have between the elementary language program and the upper level. So when instructors like myself, we go and visit the students and we let them know, not just about our courses and our research, but we also let them know that study abroad is a possibility, that you can actually spend time in another country. For some students, this is the very first time in their lives that they hear, oh, actually, it can be me. So just breaking it down little by little. Sometimes some people, so in my department, do presentations at the upper level. And this is the second time that the students hear, hey, I may actually be able to go abroad. And then they start having conversations with people that just came from a program. That makes this a possibility. So the psychological preparedness is obviously going to change depending on many factors. Some people have traveled a lot, some people have never done it before. But if we just let them know that the possibility is there and the funding is there, this is another very important aspect, right? This is the big worry. They always ask me at the end, when everyone is sort of gone at the end of the presentation or at the end of the class, and how much does this cost? Can I afford it? That makes a huge difference, right? So if you tell them there's some programs that, may be expensive, but Michigan can offer so much help for you. This is a possibility. You can go. If I went, you can as well. That is something that we're already doing, and we could even do more, but I think it's really, really helpful.
I think for me, it's all about establishing trust ahead of time and, talking about the preliminary parts of the trip and the regular check-ins. I think this has been the most helpful thing for me, is having these times to get to know each other ahead of time, develop some sense of trust so that if something does come up, students feel comfortable talking with you. When we spent time in Poland, I called them literally mental health check-ins once a week and just made it explicit. Like, that's what we're going to talk about. How are we at? Where are things going? And you learn a lot. It's shocking to me what students are willing to share. And sometimes really helpful information comes out. I think also it's in the preparation, making sure students understand what they're getting into. I think when we've had major incidents abroad, it's when students are trying to escape something back home or bringing something with them and thinking that they'll be getting away from that overseas, but it intensifies. So making that really clear in their mind that that's what's going to happen. Things will get more intense overseas. So just so students know what they're getting into.
Thank you. I have another question for you, Scott.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit virtual experiences, and I think as a field there was a boost in virtual experiences that started during the pandemic. And clearly Dearborn really embraced the effort and explored more than other places about that. What do you think as a field we should do to harness technology to increase access to global learning through any type of virtual activity? That's really a question for you as well. But let's hear from Scott first.
Yeah, so I'm a huge promoter of virtual exchange. By virtual exchange, we're talking about sustained interaction, not like a guest lectureship kind of thing, but sustained peer-to-peer interaction, faculty-led, where they're working together, often on projects, things of that nature. So that is what I'm referencing, in crossing these cultural borders. I think it is super important because, of the accessibility. We can do that everywhere. And for my students, I don't have to do it as extracurricular. I can embed it right into the class that they're already doing. Let's say they work together. So we had a group from Dearborn working with a group in Guadalajara, and they were, collecting their trash for the week and comparing and contrasting. This was for an environmental sustainability course. There's ways that they can be interacting meaningfully. I think also what's, it's low cost, but it's also low cost for our partners. A lot of our partner institutions can't afford to send their students here. And so it's not just accessible for our students, but it's accessible for theirs. And I think that's important. And also the timing can be flexible because you can do asynchronous And
Okay.
you can have students meet with their partner at whatever time works for them. So there is some flexibility built in. And then also, it's sustainable compared to air travel. That is another really important consideration, considering the state of the planet. And then finally, when it's done well, it can be transformative, just like study abroad. So it has to be done well. But what's great about U of M is we have amazing resources. We have amazing faculty members on all 3 campuses who have done fantastic work in virtual exchange. I see my colleagues, Todd Austin and Philomena Meekin from the Virtual Exchange initiative here on campus, and they provide pedagogical and technological support for virtual exchange. We have faculty members who have written books. Kelly Murdoch-Kitt in Stamps wrote an amazing book. We have a learning community. So there's resources out there. If you want to do a quality job, let us know, and we'll connect you with those resources. So.
Yeah, thank you. I think, well, at least we would like to have them public available for faculty who want to explore that. Actually, Lorenzo, I have a question that is kind of related, right? You explore some solutions that have a short-term experience abroad. And it's a lot harder when you're in a country for a short term to get to know people, to understand the culture. So how do we pursue this type of experiences, which are, of course, lower cost, easier to accommodate as part of a class, but maintain the value of the real experience abroad? Like, we don't really want students to be just tourists, right? Go visit the Alhambra, come home. They have to learn from the experience. How do you ensure that?
So the answer in part is in your question, right? So short doesn't have to mean shallow.
Okay.
And what we need to make is those experiences more engaging. One of the things that comes to mind is service learning projects, for example, or internships. Any opportunity, students may take classes in the morning, but then work for organizations, whether they're for profit or not. There's a variety of opportunities. Working at a hospital, for example, that's going to give them opportunities to access to authentic interactions, getting to know locals, actually feeling that they're making a difference for the community. And I think those are excellent opportunities. In fact, our students at Michigan are already doing it, right? So I think it's more frequent in longer programs than in shorter ones. But there are already a number of opportunities available in programs throughout Michigan. Our students are already engaging in it. I like the idea, something that I benefited from more than 20 years ago, which was having a conversational partner. Someone that was a student from another university. I met people from Ohio, Massachusetts, Florida, and they make the concept of even coming to study to the United States a reality in my mind. I never thought about it. I thought about maybe I could go and study at another European country for a semester or a year, but coming to the US, it was so far, psychologically speaking, right? But the fact that they were there and that we would get together like once or twice a week we would do always, we'd have like a clock. It's like 30 minutes we do Spanish, 30 minutes we do English, and we practice, right? Cool. So having someone like that is also something that I think would benefit a lot. And I have tried many, many times. I think that in the 15 programs that I've done, I have tried to convince the local partners to hire their own students so that they can help our own students, right, from Michigan. And they normally, sometimes they listen to me, but they get one person, right? And that is like a tourist guide. But I'm talking about something different. I always tell them, I was like, no, I want you to get one partner per student, right? And ideally, you will pair them according to their interests. So they can have conversations, they can become friends, they have things in common, right? And I think that would be really, really useful.
Do you know why it doesn't work? Like, why don't
I think it's a money issue. I think, and I have thought even now, this is the opportunity to talk to people, right? That can make decisions. That maybe if this is something that we could fund, it's not thousands of dollars that we're talking about, but some motivation, something that would make the local students want to interact with our students, and perhaps not taking as a job, but it's also an opportunity for them to grow. I think that can be really impactful. And finally, I think that journaling, this is in the literature, journaling, group debriefings, I think that this can also be, make the experience, the short-term experience, more engaging, and also give the opportunity to self-reflect, right, about what is happening. Again, the fact that it's short doesn't mean that it's not meaningful. It can be quite meaningful as well.
Thank you. I have a question.
I think we have time for one more question.
Okay. Thank you so much for speaking today. My name is Melissa, and I wanted to point out that recently the Fulbright program was under attack, and there was concerns whether or not they would be funded. And because about 25,000 people called and wrote representatives, they were able to protect the program. And as a result, I wanted to ask for you, I know that we care very much about students having these great experiences for themselves and reflecting kind of in the moment. What do you think we can do as educators to not just have these students have this awesome opportunity for themselves, but to throw a hand back that might encourage and even protect these programs in the future? Thank you.
What was the program that you mentioned?
Fulbright.
The Fulbright program.
I spoke first last time.
The question is, how can we protect programs beside encouraging our students to go abroad? Something like what happened with the Fulbright program. But there are many other programs that are not surviving.
I mean, yeah, it's a hard one, right? So I think we need, the more we can get our students to share their stories, the more we can share the impact, but hopefully not just, I think where I struggle, I think we do a great job of sharing our stories internally, but it doesn't get out maybe to the broader public, which is, you know, maybe where the stories need to be going. So how do we get these stories, these amazing stories and experiences that our students are having to lawmakers, to people who vote? How do we share those stories in a broader community? I don't know if I have the answer to that, but I think that's the gap that I see.
I do think it's very important to have the voices of the recipients of those programs rather than the organizer, right? Those voices matter so much more. So,
I mean, and if the issue is funding, one can always think about asking to alumni, perhaps people that have benefit from those programs, that they are always life-changing. I always tell my students whenever I present study abroad programs or international education in general is that I've never had any complaint. I never had anyone coming to me after a program and say, this was a really bad idea to come here. On the contrary, people are sad that they have to return. So, you know, maybe they would be willing to give back. And, you know, I don't know much about the donation system and the fundraising system, but including initiatives, a new initiative to perhaps have support to keep these programs running, I think that perhaps we could find people that are willing to give and that would be willing to support these very important initiatives.
Let me just add, I want to echo something Scott said earlier about this sort of artificial divide between global and local. I think there's an awful lot of opportunity for us to do a better job of highlighting the overlap. And it's not just that, you know, we have students and faculty who go overseas and have these great experiences, that there's opportunities for us to learn and bring things back here, and for the local communities that are also needing a little extra initiative, so that it's not this global-local split, and that programs that are global are only really benefiting people who have means and who are traveling elsewhere. So I think some of it is in our own messaging as a community and thinking about how do we do a better job of making it seem like we're all on the same planet and that we're all working towards some of the same things, as opposed to having these artificial divides.
very good point. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think we are at time. So I would like to thank again our awardees, and thank you for being part of this panel. But most of all, thank you to all of you for coming this morning, for helping us celebrate international education, and most of all, for supporting international education throughout the year. I hope I'll see you all again next fall. Thank you.